everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focused Radio. This is your host, Martin Friedman.
And I'm your host, Cindy Edwards.
Yes, and it's the two of us today. And Cindy, we are going to introduce a segment that you did. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, so this week's episode, I was honored to have Tirza Barnes on with me. Tirza is one of our facilitators for the Soul Focus group. Also, she's the CEO of Tirza Motivates LLC, and you'll learn so much more about what she does in our episode because I do a full introduction. We had a great and rich conversation about parenthood and self-forgiveness, and I just can't wait for all of our listeners to tune in.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the great things about being the one that does the recording is I get to hear all the conversations, and I know both of you pretty well, and I love the conversation. So what do you say, Cindy? Let's not delay any further. Let's let our folks get into it. Now, before we let them get into it, Cindy, let's remind everybody, we want them to subscribe on any platform that you're listening, especially if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube. We want you to like, we want you to share. Please pass the word on what we're doing. We are growing, and we want to keep growing more. So make sure to like, subscribe, all of that great stuff. And what do you say, Cindy? Let's go.
Let's do it.
Creating is the new way of fighting. At the Soul Focus Group, we're doing something radical, people. Instead of fighting against racism, sexism, and classism, which are all designed to keep us apart, we are bringing people back together again. Want to know how? By creating human solidarity. In doing so, we're improving productivity, increasing effectiveness, and transforming the way people communicate. Essentially, we're healing broken relationships. Let us bring our Creating Human Solidarity 2-day workshop to your business or organization. Sign up for this 2-day in-person workshop at thesoulfocusgroup.com, because it's time we come together.
Hey everyone, it's Cindy Edwards. Welcome to my segment. This week we'll be talking about self-forgiveness and how it relates to self-focused parenting. I am joined by my friend and colleague, Tirza Barnes. Hey Tirza, how are you?
Hello, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. Pleasure to be with you too. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this week's episode. I know you're super busy and that, you just came back from one of the trainings for Soul Focus Group in Cleveland.
Yes.
How was that?
Amazing. I had a chance to hang out with my D, Martin, and Maya, the Soul Focus Group family, and we did some great work with some great people in a really impactful community. So I was honored to be a part of the journey and happy to be back home.
I bet. And, before we start, I just wanted to share with our listeners a little background on Tirza. Tirza, she is the CEO of Tirza Motivates LLC, the source you can go to for personal and professional development, where they provide corporate training, leadership consulting, coaching, interactive workshops, keynote speaking, and so much more. Tirza, she is also a lead facilitator here at the Soul Focus Group, all while being a full-time mom. Tirza, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? Please share with me.
Loving myself first. We'll get into that, but that's the key thing that keeps me balanced, learning how to appreciate and love myself over and over again in spite of what's happening around me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I appreciate and I love you, and I look up to you so much. You are seriously superwoman to me. I'm like, Tirza is just incredible.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
So once again, thank you for being on this episode. We did share that you are a full-time mom. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself, as far as how many kids you have, their names?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I have 2 babies, and when I say babies, not babies in a stroller. I have babies who will always be my babies because they are my babies. And Iman is my youngest. He is 9 years old. And my daughter, Cassia, is 12 and she'll be 13 in August. But she's starting to say she's 13 and she's not there yet. And I have to keep reminding her, you're still 12, but she's so eager to get to that 13 year. So that's been interesting to navigate. But yeah, I have two amazing children who are in the background now. So you might hear them. They know mommy's working, and they are always very supportive of me understanding my work and what I do, especially working virtually. So I appreciate them and I'm so grateful for their support towards me.
I love that. I love that they are supportive and understanding. Wow. So you have a preteen on your hands. I remember when I was younger, I would be so eager to, grow up and say I was older. And now I'm like, man, I don't want to keep getting older. Like the responsibilities, they keep stacking up. So, with that, on this week's topic, we've been talking about self-forgiveness. And so, I wanted to ask you, how do you practice self-forgiveness when it comes to parenting?
My journey right now as a parent is unique for me because my children have been smack right in the middle of their parents separating. So, and that's a whole story within itself. We could do a whole nother podcast on that. But with that, our children are having to experience many different emotions and challenges and also amazing experiences at the same time. But within that decision to embark on separating from their father, so much emotion has come up for me over the last couple of years. And as we go through different challenges in the moment, I'm constantly encountering what could feel like mommy guilt, blame, sometimes shame. And, it's been going on close to 3 years, and I have learned to appreciate myself, forgive myself over and over again, and be present to what I need so that I can show up as a mom to them. And in turn, what I'm doing is demonstrating to them how to be even in the midst of challenge, and also look at challenge in a lens of perspective that can work for you and not against you. And so that has really been the journey in terms of my own personal growth, but also showing up for my children in a way where we can still be a happy family, still enjoy each other, still forgive each other, and forgive ourselves when we encounter ups and downs, or rather downs, the lows. So how do I forgive myself as a mommy? I keep a circle of family and friends around me who remind me that I am a good mother, first and foremost. I had to have a conversation with myself recently about trying to prove my love when it's not necessary, because I am a great mom who is extremely loving, affectionate, compassionate, a great communicator. Now, I'm not perfect, but I'm a damn good mom. But I don't always see myself as that because of the challenges that occur sometimes. So what I do is become very hard on myself, but then I have to come back to myself, my soul self, and remember what is true. And as I stated very recently, I had to realize that I was working to prove something that already existed. I was proving, at the Soul Focus group, we talk about this idea of proving ourselves and being performative. And quite frankly, it was exhausting me because I felt like no matter what I do, it wasn't enough. And if I keep going in that toxic circle, I'm only hurting myself and in turn hurting my children. So I had to say enough is enough and accept myself as I am as a mom, and realize that what I'm doing is right and I have nothing but good intention in spite of what's happening around me. So that was a really critical piece to me being able to love and appreciate myself and be in my higher self as a mother. So there are many different areas of my life, right? I'm a professional, I'm a partner, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. All these different elements of my life are moving in many different ways. And I'm so thrilled to say it's all beautiful and positive, right? But the thing that I'm hardest on myself about is being a mother, is being a mom to Cassia and Iman. And what I've done is when they have been challenging towards me, I would beat myself up and say, I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. But I had to stop that. I had to give up on that because it was a lie, and it was a deficit to me showing up the best I can in all other areas of my life. So learning to love myself consistently, accepting that I am already enough as a mom and that I've always been a good mom to my kids and I continue to show up even in the choices that I made to separate from their father is something that I have to continuously remember. You know, there's a song that I love, and it's called I Am Woman. I can't remember the person who sings it, but she says, it doesn't matter what people say as long as you know that shit is not real. Right. And
Oh,
so so that whole idea of no matter what anybody says about me, what my kids may say about me, what their father may say about me, whatever happens, who am I? It doesn't matter what they say as long as I know it's not real and that I stand true in loving my kids unconditionally. And in turn, I love myself. That's a long answer. I hope it helps. I'll pass it back to you.
that is a powerful, powerful answer. Thank you for that. Wow. It's a lot to digest, but it was like just very powerful. And thank you for sharing, your truth and being vulnerable with me and our listeners. What I really took away from that was I took away many things. One is always, obviously here at the Self Focus Group, we believe everything works in our favor. And so, like you said, whatever is happening, whether it's the ups and the downs, using that as an opportunity, to see for like the greater good and how that works out for us, for the better. But also just, I can really relate, and I'm sure a lot of our fellow mommies can relate, is we are so hard on ourselves. No matter how well we're doing, we're always just so hard when it comes to parenting, right? Like in any aspect of our life, parenting is something that we're always going to be the most critical on ourselves, no matter what the circumstances are. And I think that's so powerful that you've shared that, it's loving yourself first, because
Mm-hmm.
I struggle that, I love myself, and for most days I know like I'm doing a really good job and I'm doing the best I can. But there are some days at night, like I'll be upstairs and, I'll reflect on the day, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm failing as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like, the past 6 days have been great, but that seventh day, like, you know,
Yeah.
I've slipped up and said something in the heat of the moment and then immediately regretted it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
a terrible parent, you know.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, my kids, they always show me grace and they love me unconditionally. And no matter what happens, like they're just so full of love and joy, and always tell me like I'm the best mom in the whole wide world. That's what they say. My youngest, Kamai, she's like, Mommy, you're the best mommy in the whole wide world.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. And Cindy, so we beat up ourselves, and then our kids, after the fire, after the storm, they get over things much faster than we do, I notice, number one. And then they come back with a love and a demonstration of love, or a picture. Or, I was just reading a note on my refrigerator that says, "You are the best person ever." My son drew that for me and wrote it for me probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
And I think about all the difficult moments prior to that and even after that. And yet that love keeps coming back. He'll keep in some way demonstrating his love and appreciation towards me, which reminds me that I'm doing something right, The key, though, is regardless of whether our children communicate their appreciation to us or our love to us, or even if they're in the moment of really being unhappy with us or feeling like we're not giving them what they need, we're still enough. That's the key thing that we have to remember as parents. It's that unconditional love of self and that ability to stay steady regardless of what is happening in the moment. And as parents, as mommies, we know that there are some very heated moments. There are tantrums. You talk about raising a preteen. My daughter has a mouth on her. Okay. It's like a whiplash, and learning to stay steady regardless and not be reactive has been my growth. I'm learning that my children are soul beings on a whole nother level. It's not just a physical body I'm looking at. They are soul beings, and what they demonstrate in the moment of their hurt, anger, and frustration, it's not real. It's their emotion, but their soul is love, kindness, and appreciation to who we are. And so even when we are not seeing it in the moment, we have to remember that. I'm going to share a quick story with you. Me and my besties decided to have a spa day. And so, during that spa day, she and I are talking about our children and sharing stories. And I was describing to her some of the experiences I was having with my children and how difficult I found it to be and how hurtful I found it to be. And she used a term that basically said, and I cannot remember the term, but it was a term that wasn't necessarily positive, may be true, but it wasn't positive, and I agreed to it. And she wasn't being negative towards the children. She was just stating what it was in terms of how they were behaving. And I found the term to be so effective in what I was feeling at the moment because I was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a term that basically described like they weren't being obedient. It was just a term that resonated with me well. A day or two later, as I was reflecting on that conversation and thinking about that term, the soul spoke to me. The spirit spoke to me and said, do not identify your kids with that negative term. It is not true. Your children are soul beings. See them as such. And that was a breakthrough moment for me. It was almost like a conviction because I was easily equating them to something negative based on their demonstration of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But soul said, that's not how you see your children. Your children are light, love, and life all the time, even in the most difficult moments. And so when I had that epiphany and I began to see my children, even in their demonstration of hurt, pain, and frustration, as soul, as light, as love, more consistently, because I always see them that way, but it's harder to see them that way when they're in a moment, right?
Right.
But to see them as soul beings, which they are, their essential nature, in their essential nature. It's almost like that nature of when they're loving and sweet and writing you those love notes and telling you you're the best mom ever, like seeing them that way, even in their disrespect, even in their tantrums, remembering who they are, soul. And the moment I had that breakthrough and made a decision to see them that way, I started to see a change in their behavior. Why? Because I started to see them in their light, even when they weren't demonstrating light. You get what I'm saying, Cindy? So there was a change in behavior and attitude and even how we connected as parent and children. And so that's just a reminder that when we're going through difficult moments with our children, to remember who they are and to remember that in truth, they want us to see their light just as much as we want them to see our light, and staying in that soul space, even in difficult moments.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that because, right now my kids, they are still very young and they don't have a slick mouth on them yet, and so I'm not dealing with those moments right now, but there are times where, yes, like I do feel like they're being disobedient and I don't want to look at them as such. And so that's really powerful that you shared that, and really beautiful because, I'm looking at my son right now. He woke up and he came down, and as you were saying that, I was just looking at him and I'm just like, you are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
This little soul just wants to be seen, wants to be, heard and understood. They just want to feel connected to us.
Yes.
Some days when they don't feel connected, they show up in ways that may not be pleasant. And I really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. My pleasure. And if I can add one more piece to this. So we are here to see them and connect with them, but not at the price of losing ourselves. That's the key piece here, right? It's like this gentle balance. So mommy needs time for herself. My children know that my son was in the living room. It's like a basketball court in the living room because he just loves basketball. It's a living room, but it's a hoop in there and he's bouncing back and forth. And, this is his thing and this is home. So do you, right? But he wants me to sit in there with him and hang out. And I'm like, that's cool, babe. I'm going to come and sit with you. But mommy needs to have some quiet time. I'm about to do this podcast. I want to meditate. I want to take care of myself. My kids understand that. They respect that. They get that mommy needs to care for herself. And so, you want breakfast? Well, mommy's going to care for herself right now. So you go make your bowl of cereal because mommy's going to do her. And when I take care of me, I'm able to see you and give you exactly what you need. So, the key thing as we speak about mommy guilt and, being better moms, it's very important that we make time for ourselves and teach our children to respect the space that we need to be our best selves. When I'm loving myself and when I'm appreciating myself, it's far much easier to love somebody else and appreciate somebody else. It just doesn't work any other way. And that goes for children as well. When we think about being parents and when people say, oh, when you're ready to have children, when is that going to happen? There's other sides. There's stuff. I feel like there was information left out about parenting. I feel like people didn't tell us the true story about what it means to be a mom and what to expect from children and what do you do to take care of yourself, right? And so if there's anyone listening who's about to embark on parenting and you're eager to bring a child into this world, beautiful. It's the greatest gift of all. But understand that it's very important that you set boundaries and that you are not supposed to sacrifice yourself for children. And this may be something that is a bit controversial, but I'm going to say it because it wasn't said to me and I wish it was. You have to still put yourself first, even as a mom. It's very critical.
Right. Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Tirza, so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I really appreciate you. I really appreciated this conversation. This was so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you're able to join me today. And I hope our listeners enjoy every piece of wisdom that Tirza had to share with us.
Cindy, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Awesome.
When it comes to racism, the truth is most people are only reporting on the problem. They're not solving the problem. At the Human Solidarity Project, we are doing something to solve the problem. Through our Sending the Right Signal workshop, we are teaching organizations and businesses how to move beyond DEI work. Next, we are teaching organizations how to heal from the damage caused by racism. And finally, we're showing organizations how to create cultural integration and truly bring people together. Sign up for these 3 virtual workshops today at soulfocusgroup.com. Your organization will never be the same.
Man, that was such a good conversation, Cindy. And I really appreciate how you facilitated that conversation. As always, you came vulnerable and honest, respectful. And I think you really brought out some great stuff from Tirza. And I just want to check in with you and see what have your reflections been and what are your feelings been since you had that conversation with Tirza about self-forgiveness and parenting?
Yeah, that conversation with Tirza was fire. It was fire. Tirza was dropping so many gems. I truly appreciate her wisdom and just for being so vulnerable, sharing her experience with co-parenting. And, my biggest takeaway was to love yourself first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And so, the biggest thing with self-forgiveness is, you got to love yourself in order to you got to practice self-forgiveness, right? In order to love yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
there are
You keep
days
going.
where, I'll make mistakes, and, I just got to chalk it up and be like, okay, it's a new day. I'm going to accept responsibility for what happened or for my mistakes and forgive myself. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for our listeners to listen, and hopefully, they can take away some of the wisdom that Tirza has shared and find it helpful as well.
Yeah, I think Cindy, that our listeners are going to get a lot from what both of you said. And in terms of what you're saying right now, I think one of the things that I took away from that conversation and what you're saying right now is that we can say whatever we want to our children, but it's a constant process of modeling. They're sponges and they're soaking it up. So if they don't see us forgiving ourselves, it's going to be harder for them to forgive themselves. So I think that what I'm hearing from both you and Tirza is that the self-forgiveness practice isn't just for you, but it's modeling, because your children are going to need to know how to forgive themselves too, to be successful.
Right, right.
Hey, I appreciate very much the conversation, and I always appreciate you and you being on this podcast with us. And yeah, I'm just excited for where we're going. So, Cindy, I want to tell our listeners that this is the last in the series around self forgiveness. We got a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different voices out there, which is what we want to do on all of our subjects. So, starting next week, we're going to have a new subject. We're going to surprise you all with it. We're going to have some new guests, some new voices, and we can't wait for you to hear what we have. Anything else you want to say, Cindy?
Nope, not at the moment. I'm just really excited for all of our listeners to tune in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we always tell you, we love you, each and every one of you. We care about you. We are so excited to have you on this journey with us. This is a journey for all of us, including Cindy and myself and Martina and everybody we have on there. We are all coming from a place of growth. We're not coming to you as experts that understand everything. So you're on an equal journey with us. All of us are on this journey to grow. We all still make mistakes. We acknowledge our mistakes, and we do everything we can to turn them into growth experiences. And that's what we ask for you all. And we know that self-forgiveness is another tool to help turn mistakes into growth experiences. So again, we love you. We care about you. We want you on this journey with us. So go to soulfocusgroup.com, listen, subscribe, share, like, all of it, and go to our social media channels. Check us out on Instagram and on Facebook, and we have new content all the time, and we're going to keep having more and more content. We're going to roll out our new website very soon, so we have new offerings. We just can't wait to have you all a part of what we do. We're just so excited, and so we ask of each and every one of you that you stay safe, you stay well, and most of all, you stay
so focused.
Focused.